Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today we have the full team. So we have Suraj, Shah and Chidi Manya. How you guys?
Yeah. Good.
We have a few topics to talk about today. Suraj is going to go through his transfer roundup, and then we're going to be talking about the return of the Premier League, and then we're going to go more into boxing, where we're going to discuss a crossover fight between Francis Ngannou versus Dillian Whyte, and then we're going to have a fun topic with Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather and who had the better career. Let's just kick things off, Suraj. So if you want to kick things off with the transfer market and what's happening around the Premier League.
So I'll just start off with a real quick one, which is the signing of Cardi to PSG, and that's from Inter Milan. Just mentioning it because obviously it's a big transfer, 51 million, and it looks like that's official. We'll wait for the clubs both to respond, but that looks like the big one to start off this whole sort of transfer campaign. But we're going to go to Germany, where, as you know, German football at the moment is very hot. It's only elite football available, so all eyes on Germany. Not only that, they have abundance of talent. So when Premier League is looking for recruits, this is one place that all eyes on Germany right now. So as well as your sort of high-profile ones, your Sancho and your Haalands, I'm actually going to have a look at a couple of others first. So Timo Werner, big one for Liverpool. Big one. Last 3-4 months, this name and this club have been mentioned quite heavily. I think we'll start off with the fact that he's 24 years old from Leipzig, and his goal scoring record at the moment is on par with the best strikers in the world. If you look at it, if you value that league, and we understand, obviously, we dilute it slightly with stats when we're looking at maybe France and Germany. But to be fair to the Bundesliga, it's a strong league. Very good indicator of the talent that they have there. Timo Werner, Liverpool have courted him. Looking around, what we're hearing. The only thing stopping this transfer from what we can see right now is potentially Liverpool hardballing decision. So they are interested in the player. The player is interested in them. This has been, this is roaming in the media. It's really well documented. It's just a case of Liverpool trying to potentially negotiate that fee down. It's a good thing to potentially do, but it's also risky. The reward is you pay less for the transfer fee when you know that person wants to come to you. The only other problem is you kind of invite a little bit of competition. So if you try the hardball tactics and another club is more than willing to sort of put down the money, there's every chance that the parent club will have a look at that and say, well, you know what, maybe we can negotiate terms with these guys and let's see if the player's sort of interested. So I know a particular club that's potentially looking would be Chelsea. You will have your usual suspects. When you talk about these particular talents, we're talking about really strong emerging talents in Europe. So obviously, if one set of scouts is looking at this talent, the usual suspects, your Cities, your Uniteds, your Madrids, your Inters, your Juves, they'll all be looking at this talent too. So Timo Werner is hot property. Beautiful goal scoring record. Chidi, any thoughts as a Liverpool fan? Obviously, you've got the three, and I guess this is where it relates to. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, where will he fit in? Does someone like Salah and Mane have to make way?" I guess if we forget about them two going out potentially, there is the African nations anyway. So you could do with potentially another striker, regardless whether you've got to exit one out. Thoughts on Timo Werner as a player or in terms of a prospect?
So basically, I think for Liverpool, he's been linked with us. So in terms of value, so we haven't obviously with the Corona, I think like clubs' finances may have changed. So, but before the Corona, we looked at one area where potentially we're lacking is that if one of the big three get injured, we don't really have that much depth. We've got Origi's done amazingly well, but he scored in the Champions League final. He scored some key crucial goals last season, but this season he's kind of not really done a lot, and he's never really going to be a world-class player. And then obviously going underneath that, if we do kind of change the formation, sometimes we play Shaqiri up top, but obviously he wants to leave, and then Lallana, I think his contract's running up. So we were thinking, okay, let's get a quality somebody up front, and then we're looking at, okay, what kind of value can we get? And then obviously there's a lot of talk that he had a 50 million release clause if it's activated by a certain date. Obviously, before pre-Corona, that was kind of good value for, we bought, and we've got links to Leipzig because we bought Naby Keita for 50 million as well. So 50 million, considering we haven't spent a lot for a player, that if it wasn't for a release clause, could potentially be worth, I had to go back to Chelsea, but they spent 60 million on Morata, and he's as good as Morata, if not better goal scorer. So in terms of bringing him in the team, it looked like to boosters up front, it looked like a good deal. Now, obviously, there was an argument, where is he going to play? One issue was if a big bid comes in for Mane or Salah, then at least we know we've got a ready-made replacement, because he tends to play on the left, kind of like Mane, and then cut in, and he can play up top like a Firmino, but he doesn't drop off. Obviously, he's more of a out-and-out striker. So then it would also give us a kind of different dimension to play. So that was the thinking behind it. And if those guys did stay, it would be a quality backup. Obviously, right now the issue is he's still a quality player. I've seen him play in the German league. He scores a lot of goals. He will fit into our style. And Klopp is, I think, the reason why he really wants to come to us. Yeah, he wants to come to us because of Klopp. No, but I think we play similar football to Leipzig.
Because I agree with you. I think a lot of it's been made about the style of play he has, or what he does for Leipzig, and how that relates to you guys, where you play slightly different. But I think that's showing a little bit of these kind of strikers can adapt. I'm not saying he will definitely be pivotal or but the expectancy is, if you're paying 50 million for the striker, you can see that at the moment he's producing the product, he's got the end product. For me, it's more about getting the talent, and you can probably work with it, so it doesn't have to be nailed down. And these types of strikers these days, they're not nailed down to one position like you would get back in the old days, and you have Alan Shearer as a centre forward. It's like nowadays, these guys can play across front threes. You can meddle with them. You can sort of shift them about. And with a player like Firmino, for example, I'm sure you could be able to balance it off, like however you want to fit in Werner. So I don't really see it as some of the media have sort of suggested, it's not the right player, but I'd totally disagree. I'll be like, considering the fact that you both are interested in parties, it's just a question of the price tag.
Yeah,
I'll certainly sort of be. I'd just like to see it happen. And also, like I said, if you stall too long, there is every chance, like another team like Chelsea, even United, I guess anybody that's really genuinely interested can test the resolve by putting down a genuine bid to sort of, whilst you guys are potentially taking your time. But like I said, it should happen. It could happen. I think it's just a case of finances. I'm going to move on to just the other big man in Germany, and this is Kai Havertz. Now, this name is massive. I think we thought coming before pre-pandemic, names like Sancho, Haaland. Obviously, they you can see the talent. You can see they're buzzing. You can see, I guess, with Solskjaer, Man United had previously coached Haaland. We expected almost, maybe we'd get a say. He had his pick of clubs. He chose beautiful club, which has got plenty of talent in it, and it's a great place to develop without, I guess, the genuine pressures that maybe Premier League clubs face going towards the top. Kai Havertz is possibly right now the hottest property. I'd go out on a limb slightly, say the hottest property in the world right now. Wow. 20 years old, has spent nearly a decade at Leverkusen. Last year, he scored 17 goals in their league. So just league goals, 17 goals in 34 appearances or something along those lines. This year he's changed his role slightly. So rather than taking a strong number of shots, he's reduced his shots slightly, and he's given a bit more depth to his midfield sort of dimensions. He's versatile. Already he can play anywhere in the middle. He's actually played as winger. They say he can play as a centre attacking midfielder. They actually say he plays as a 9.5. He kind of plays in between the striker and a centre attacking role. He's also really good defensively. He harasses. He's got a good high retention of the ball. there is so much that this guy can do. I guess as the negatives would be his heading, considering his height and stuff like that. There's stuff he can work on. And in terms of what he can actually do on a football pitch, this is one of the hottest properties going around. So who's linked with Havertz? Everybody. This is what's
Is there any specific that's linked, like properly linked?
Yeah, well, so Man United are interested. Liverpool are strongly interested. Chelsea are interested. The problem is there's no player like Havertz right now. So when Owen Hargreaves described him, he described him as an Özil-Balek hybrid. There isn't nothing like Havertz. He's only 20 years old. His last 2 seasons have been strong. He's really caught the eye this season. He just scored recently a brace. Chelsea strongly linked with him, but I'll be damned if United aren't looking at this player
but
too.
Where would he fit in United? I don't.
For me right now, it's the talent. It is the talent. So you're looking at with a player like this as well. He doesn't need to necessarily hold down. He doesn't need to necessarily be called attacking midfielder or centre midfielder. He is a beautiful talent that can play anywhere in the middle of the park and pushing forward.
He sounds like a Pogba replacement.
Yeah.
The thing is, all eyes on him. All eyes on Havertz. He has spent nearly 10 years at the club. He's clearly loyal. He's clearly developed well. This is his time now. Someone's going to strike. I really see like someone has to strike for this guy. He is in hot goal scoring form. He is showing a little bit more assist to his game. He can do a lot considering there is, very little going on around him. Havertz is a unique type of player, and I don't know exactly what his role is. He could be a number 10 in the future. He could be anything. He could potentially. I think there's a lot of buzz, and if coming out of Germany as well, where you've got mass talent, you've had people like Gertz, so haven't probably reached the heights.
It's surprising how many people coming out.
There's a lot of German talent.
Good, yeah.
German talent is absolutely up there. And I think the name on everyone's lips at the moment is actually Kai Havertz. So look out for this guy. He could be playing in the Premier League next season, and he could be playing for absolutely any club in terms of. I'll say quickly, just we've mentioned United, so I'll just say obviously they're looking at Angel Gomez to try and sign him on.
Right.
I know that's not a new transfer or anything, but it would be amazing because he's a sought-after talent in Europe. A lot of the bigger sort of European elites around us are all sort of vying for that signature. He is highly rated. We hope to see him in the future, and preferably in Man United colours. So that's one that we're looking at.
What do you think about that though? Like, because basically now with Corona, so you've got youth players like Gomez, Saka. One player like at Liverpool is Harry Wilson. We were going to sell him to Bournemouth. I don't know if Bournemouth will pay that money now. So potentially, instead of buying someone, we might bring him back. So do you think teams are going to play their youth now more and not buy big players?
It's a more viable option. It's a more economic option. It makes sense to use your own resources first before you kind of sort of plough the market for other resources. But once again, you want to support. If we don't feel like the talent's the most premium, and they can straight away adapt to playing for us. It's more of a softly approach. You see that with Phil Foden with Man City, because obviously compared to the talent they have, they're not quite there yet. So they have to take this softly approach where they integrate you slowly. I think that's one of them players that will take a while before you see him at United, before having first team stints. It's going to take a little while.
What, Gomez?
Yeah, particularly that player.
Yeah, but then are you going to, that's what I mean. So then if you're going to say, okay, you before take softly approach, but now with Corona, if you need a midfielder, do you now throw him into the spotlight, or do you still look for a midfielder?
I think we've got a few ahead of him. However, I wouldn't want to put that kind of pressure on the youth, to be honest. I'd want to be able to use them, but also want them to be back up to someone else in all due respect. So I think my philosophy is if they're good enough, they will eventually play, or if they're good enough, they should be able to break through. If they're not quite good enough, where you feel like they run out of steam quite early, they're very viable to injury or prone to injury because of just the extremities of playing first team football compared to youth football. So whatever it is, some people take longer to grow. Maybe his body and everything needs time to grow. Some people take longer. Some people are fully built, pretty athletic looking by the time they're like 16, 17, 18. So it really depends. He's a smaller type of player, low center of gravity. he's got tricky. We see him in cups and competitions, bits and pieces. So I think it'll be more like that. But let's just see if we get an injury and we haven't replaced. And like once again, if that's what they're there for, to be played. They are your player. And yeah, we will definitely have to see. Just really quickly mention, obviously, Garlo going out to possibly going back to parent club, Shanghai Shenhua. This is potentially, if we're not able to keep Igalo, it's looked at someone from Monaco. So it looks like we're looking at what was dubbed a wonder kid, and it was actually an 18 million transfer for Monaco, and that's Pietro Pellegrini, I think his name is, Italian. And it looks like Man United or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in particular may be interested. So this is the biggest gamble I've seen sort of Man United in cahoots with, and it looks like we may have. I think he's 18 years old now, so was dubbed a wonder kid, but actually last 2 seasons he's been totally injured. Massive gamble in his fitness, massive gamble, but not too concrete. So I won't go too long on about it. But it looks like we're looking at 3 potential teenagers in terms of keeping Angel Gomez on the books, looking at Jude Bellingham, and this Pietro now Pellegrini. Looks like another one that's sort of coming in. I think you've got things like Coutinho and Chelsea. Chelsea looking at quite a few players across the market. So I would imagine that in the future you will see a few transfers going Chelsea's way. It'll be interesting times.
Okay, all right, cool. Let's move on to a topic. We got some exciting news last week where the Premier League is finally starting up again. June the 17th. I know Chidi's really excited because Liverpool can actually finish their season. So go on, give us your take, Chidi, because I know you want to say something. Huh?
What are you giving us?
Oh, we wanted to gift you it.
Okay, now just don't slip, mate.
Yeah. It would be the worst loss ever, like the worst, slip up ever in Premier League.
Well, I would say, so basically, I thought, my whole argument has always been it would be better to finish the season, TV money, places. Obviously, I don't want it to be voided, which they said they weren't going to do. As some talk progressed about, if it ends now and they do what they did in France, where they would give us, where they would do points per places or points per games or whatever. And if they did that in the Premier League, I was actually happy with that. I only then wasn't happy with that because you guys kept on saying, we'll give you the title. And I didn't like that kind of talk. So then I was very adamant that the season must finish. And then to make it worse, I saw what was going on in Germany. Now, we talked before off camera about government, UK government and German government. We all know Germany's efficient and the UK government's not. But in terms of the Premier League, if the Bundesliga can restart, the Premier League can restart. And I've been saying that for a while. And this is vindication, though. There's been a lot of talk in the paper, and I don't want to slate this person because, I actually do like him as a footballer. But obviously, there's two main people right now. One of them always complains, that's Danny Rose. The second one is Troy Deeney. He's vocal as being, it's not fair. And he's got a lot of stick. And he was talking about people said Kobe's baby gets corona. Things like that. That's not right to say. But at the end of the day, we are going back to work. Everybody is going back to work. That is the government's frame. Footballers are getting tested 2-3 times a day. They've got the best medical professions. Why should they not go back to work and finish the season? And that's what's happening. So why not? I've never seen a problem with it, and it's happening. So Liverpool win 2 games. It's already tainted, so it's not like I'm excited. We might even win the league at a neutral venue. So it's not like, it's not tainted. It's always.
Are they all traveling?
Who?
Are they all traveling across? Are they still going to each other's stadiums without fans, or are they doing it all in one location?
Well, the problem is the actual date of the 17th of June is penciled in, subject to government approval. So I think there's still some things they're trying to work around. But the main thing,
sort of seen the schedule. We
Yeah.
sort of see the schedule as in like they've got quite a few games sort of.
No, but are the players still traveling across to like different cities and stuff?
I think that's all part of the logistics. So I think they're going to try and keep certain teams in certain areas to make it easier. So that will make testing easier. Because obviously, if you're traveling all about the places, it seems to be contradictory to what you hope. You know, it makes more sense to have a couple of neutral venues, have teams sort of parked up there, and then you're going to play game after game essentially. So
because NBA doing it in a little bubble. Like in Orlando, they're all going to be living there, and then they just play their games in one area, one venue.
I don't think they're not doing it to that extent, because they were going to do it. They were saying they were going to do it at where England trained, George's Park. They're not doing that anymore.
Right.
There will be games at like Anfield and Old Trafford, but certain key games. So like they've announced that like there's certain games they're looking at. I think one of them is like Man City, Liverpool. Potentially a game, other games like that potentially might be at neutral venues.
Right. Well, what about like? Did you hear about the FA Cups restarting? I think they said, right, the FA Cup could be restarting.
I don't even know, because we're not in
those
the
should be
FA Cup,
scrapped?
so I've kind of given up.
No, but do you think that should be scrapped? Like at least the other domestic cups.
The issue with that one is, and like I don't know, Suraj can tell me more. What obviously for me personally, I've been more focused on just starting the league and winning the next two games, because obviously we're not in the FA Cup and we're not in the Champions League. Just the same with the FA Cup and the same with the Champions League is that when are these fixtures going to get played? Like, it's like, because obviously the priority right now, and for me anyway, I don't care about them.
It's going to be played, during the point, where the Premier League games are getting played.
Yeah, but they're meant to be doing potentially two Premier League games a week. So I don't know how they're going to. For me personally, because obviously Liverpool are not in it, I don't really care. If they scrap it, they scrap it. Potentially, it'll be a good thing. But if they don't scrap it and they say, oh, well, we're going to play... Okay, then the players might have a point, because if they start playing 3 games a week, it might be a bit too much. With the Champions League, I know they're saying they're going to do it in August.
Right.
So that's just potentially affecting when the next season starts. Things like the FA Cup, potentially, it's all about money, really, though, isn't it? But potentially,
I was gonna say it really boils down to one point, and that's money. Like, is it worth enough money for them to disregard like the other factors? I mean, let's be honest, we're doing the same thing with the Premier League. So I understand your point of like everyone, let's go back to work, but we're only going back to work because obviously economy sort of like shutting down a bit, and we're all losing money in that sense. But in terms of versus life, so you've seen with the French league, for example, they've sort of ended the season, done their positions and awarded the positions there. In the Dutch league, they obviously just ended it void and scrapped the whole league off. I'm not sure if they announced the winners or not for that particular league, but that clearly shows me that those two leagues versus the German league and now the Premier League is going to be boils down to not just the moral stance, but more the money stance. So I think if those leagues stood to make more money like ours do and that Germany does, then the question's not really posed so much. It's more just simply like logistics. How do we do it? Whereas with the FA Cup, I think once again, you're going to look at it from a money perspective. Let's be brutally honest here. Money's talking. So it's in terms of the leagues that are going to go forward, are the leagues not from a moral stance, really none of them should go ahead, really. And from a moral stance, none of us should really be going to work in the time frame that they're given, considering what's going on as well. It's more like guidelines, and they realise that, okay, it's come to a conjunction whereby money really talks at this point in time, and it makes more sense to make money now. So we've gone past we've sort of gotten over it, if that makes sense, over what's happening and what's happened. So we're kind of moving on from it. But I don't think it's really fair. So I think, like, if you're going to do the Premier League, then really what's your major complaint against it? And if you're saying it's extra games, like, I don't think that's as good an argument, considering that you're playing games anyway.
Well, it depends if they're traveling. I think if they're
no, but then if it was worth the right amount of money, then they would make it happen. They would logistically like they do.
Is the FA Cup worth it though? That's the thing.
That's what it's going to boil down to, and I just think that's a shame, because now we're just basically doing monetary value versus sort of almost like prestige. It's like it doesn't matter. It's not prestigious because it doesn't make us.
Well, it's prestigious for the lower teams because obviously if they win it, then they get a chance to
make some money.
Yeah, but then even we don't know the schedule, because remember, like, going before this happened, there was already a debate around the FA Cup because a lot of the big teams were playing. It was turning into the League Cup, where a lot of the big teams were now starting to play their second players. Now, I don't know who's left in the FA Cup from a lower league, but then obviously I don't actually 100% know.
It's still
I know
trophy.
league,
It's still
but
trophy for the big teams, for us and for your cities and stuff. Anyone who wants to dominate or anyone who wants another option, it is silverware. It's our most prestigious.
Yeah, but when it's silverware when it gets to the end, but when it's at the start, you don't like. For example, I don't know what round we're in.
The FA Cup. No,
yeah, but what I'm saying, who are Man U? Man U still in it? Who are you playing next?
I can't remember. It's been such a long time. I can't
That's
remember.
That's what I mean. So unless it's somebody like you, if it's not a top team, you potentially could play your second team.
Yeah, but then that's not fair on the club that would have made money from the. That's what I'm saying. So it's like we're taking a really elitist view at this. It's like, okay, Liverpool deserve the Prem or whatever. So let's make the Prem happen. But whoever the lower league team is in the FA Cup currently, they don't deserve it because it's not worth money to anyone. It's like we're being picky.
Yeah, but my argument to that would be for the lower league team is that I know League 2 is cancelled, and I'm not sure what's going on with the Championship and League 1. But if their leagues are cancelled, what they're just going to be training for one match every 3 weeks.
I think they should be given.
Yeah, but how can they train? They're going to train if you've got a lower league team in there and they're not playing football. How can they? It's not fair on them anyway because how are they going to train?
We could invite.
They can still train. They just can't. Yeah. They're just not playing in that specific league.
So
mate, you're literally taking away their chance of getting into Europe.
Yeah. So you're saying match fit versus their chance at playing at Wembley one day. That's I don't think that equates up. That's not.
No. What I'm saying is, as a Liverpool fan, we're not in the FA Cup, so for me, I'm not really too concerned. If football's coming back, everything.
Okay, let's do this. What happens if he was in the FA Cup? Let's do that.
No, I just said that. I just said, I'm saying if football can come back, everything should come back. But what I'm saying is, if it gets to the point, where I think players will have an argument, is that if you're now saying we're doing the Premier League, that's priority. We're going to do 2 games a week. Now you have to start prioritizing. Can they do 3 games a week with the FA Cup? That's an argument for them. I personally,
they're not going to do a weekly thing, man.
First of all, not all the teams are involved. A lot of the teams are knocked out in the Premier League already. So I think you're almost comparing it like a league and league. It's probably about how many games you reckon, Rishi, do we have to complete for the FA Cup for it to be resolved?
I don't know, about 6, 5.
I can't remember where we're at.
It should go ahead.
5 happened, right? So
we're past.
We're past 4 rounds. We're into
Liverpool got knocked out in the 5th round against Chelsea, so we're probably at the quarters.
So how many teams are involved? So you've only got a certain amount.
Yeah, but I'm saying it should go ahead. What I'm trying to say is that if Man U are still in it and they say, well, this is not fair, that's up to Man U. Then you lot have to make that decision.
No, but that's fine.
No. It won't be a one club decision. We don't get to say on whether the FA.
No, but as in you'll make this decision with everybody else who's still in it. Do you get? And if everybody else is still in it, like say for example, it's all Premier League teams, and everybody says, this is just long. We don't want to do it. Then don't do it.
If you want to do a club perspective, I want Europa to go on, but then that becomes a logistical nightmare because apparently everyone coming into UK via air travel has to spend 2 weeks in quarantine. So I'm not even sure how logistically it works, but I would like Europa because I think that's another shot at us going into the Champions League and looking at the other teams in that league. I'd fancy us to be getting potentially to the final. So we stand to win cups. We stand to be in Champions League battle for 4th. Like we've got a lot of things riding as well, and I think a lot of the emphasis has gone purely onto the title winners or the Champions League. But I think there's loads of us in this position.
It looks like for the FA Cup. I'm looking at the fixture. So it looks like to say they've penciled it in for the 27th of 6th. You've got all the Premier League clubs left. You've got Newcastle, Man City, Leicester, Chelsea, Sheffield United, Arsenal, Norwich, and Man U. That's all Premier League clubs. So if they can figure it out between themselves, where they can have these matches without conflict.
Yeah, but they could just drag the deadline on a bit and then just.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, so they might as well.
No, but they will. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, but you're talking about League 2. We'll talk about.
They're not in it. They're not in it though.
Okay,
so
but that's fine. That's even
it's redundant for them, so it doesn't matter now.
Yeah,
they might as well continue. I was saying if they were in it, I didn't know who was in it, then it would be a bit unfair on them. But they would even if they were in it and their leagues were cancelled, they would still say let's go ahead because they never know what could happen. But
it's an opportunity for them. It's still an opportunity, and it's more revenue. It is more revenue to get the chance.
I think obviously they can do it in a way that I'm saying that the argument is, for a player argument is fixture. There's going to be fixture pile up. So I understand that argument, and I think if they can sensibly, for example, what they're doing, they've already said Champions League is not going to be played till August. That's fine. Because imagine you had to play Champions League now and football. It would be very impossible to do that. But they've already said...
We might have a chance with Europa in that case.
Because it's going to be in August. They've pushed it back already. They're saying it's not going to be played till at least August.
Have they said anything about next season in that case, like in terms of when they...
Well, that's what I mean. They haven't
They potentially could drag it on. That's what I'm saying. They like...
Right now, it's just like, let's finish this season.
We may as well.
We might start this season. And
we may as well finish this
in Germany, everything's going well. But you don't know if,
let's just hope that whatever they've done on their side, that we can employ exactly. Because you know that they do it better. So it's like almost like I don't want us to cut corners, like in terms of testing or anything like that, and then it backfires on us because we just not capable.
Exactly. Right now, it's just a case of let's just try and see if we can finish the season before the end of summer.
No, but I think this whole fixtures pile up thing that you're talking about, the whole point, that the reason why people generally have the fixtures like separated by a week or sometimes by 3-4 days is traveling. The thing is, if they suddenly sort out the traveling point and then get teams closer to play, in a same venue, sort of like, or two venues within a certain city, right? Then the whole thing changes. You can actually squeeze games in.
Yeah, that's what they're going to
do. Even like pre-season, when you've got like they did the little tournaments and you've got like 6-team tournaments and you play like day after day after. Sometimes there's only 12 hours, 24 hours between your games or whatever it is. So really and truly they can do it. It's just I guess we're talking about a really competitive state of football, and it may be a bit difficult. But I agree. I think it's totally doable. Yeah,
no, but this is
if they are closer, the recovery time for resting and there's no jet lag and stuff like that does help in terms of recovery and stuff. So I guess, and if they're all on board, which I imagine they all are anyway at this stage, because everyone wants to complete it now. So it's like the longer we go on about it, and the longer this is just going to drag on. So it's like let's complete this season.
Let's see. Like I said, it's not June 17th is the scheduled start. One thing I'd note as well, which it's funny how things work. Then this is just to note for everyone that they've announced that all 92 games left will be shown on some form of TV. Sky are actually going to make some matches free. I think the first match was Liverpool and Everton. That will be free. BBC for the first time ever. See, it takes a pandemic now. When a pandemic comes, now for the first time ever in history. Imagine now. This is seriously. You pay your taxes, you pay TV license, and now for the first time ever in history, the BBC are going to show live Premier League games. So they could have done that before, but okay, cool. I think YouTube have picked up some games as well. So. And then obviously, I'm not sure if BT are going to show their matches free, but potentially they might. And then Amazon have got some matches, and Amazon. Well, I won't share the trick, but there is a trick where you can. Well, it's not really a trick. You can sign up for Prime for 1 month and get.
We need to beep that out, mate.
You can sign up for Prime for 1 month. Cancel after a month. So there's football there for people. It's not. It's one good thing is in the sense that there'll be football that can watch for free, where before obviously we know it wasn't like that.
Let's move on to the boxing now. So there was that sort of rumor that taking place. There's a crossover fight between Francis Ngannou versus Dillian Whyte. Now, I heard something about Eddie Hearn speaking about it, that it is a possible fight. What do you think, Chidi? Do you think that fight will happen? Well, that's the first question. Do you think that fight will happen?
Probably not. I don't know too much about Francis Ngannou since the last fight.
Yeah.
UFC, and then obviously I'm following him on YouTube. He does some workouts, so I'm not sure what like career trajectory he's trying to go. I believe he wants to fight John Jones and people like that. Dillian Whyte's obviously got a match scheduled anyway, and I think it's going to be a case of the only way it will happen is after Dillian Whyte fights his next fight against Povetkin, he's got a lag. He's got mandated to fight Fury or the win. Well, it was Wilder, but he's going to fight whoever the WBC champion is at the time. Obviously, they're talking about Wilder. If Fury fights Wilder and wins, a unification will trump mandatory. So he might be stuck where they'll say, nah, he still has to wait. Then he might decide, you know what, while I'm waiting, I might as well do a crossover fight. And I guess the same, you can tell me what Francis Ngannou's plan is, but I guess it's the same for him. If he's in a position where he can't get the big fight, then potentially that is something that's going to happen.
Well, I'm reading in between the lines, right? Because Dana White's kind of announced or has said for the past year that he wants to get into promotion of boxing, right? He wants to promote boxing fights. Well, I think this is possible. Ngannou is very flat-footed. He's very flat-footed, but every knockout that he does is with his hands. I mean, he touches you. He's got one of the craziest. He's probably he's got the most power in the UFC. Like no one's ever seen it. Like people used to talk about Anthony Rumble Johnson. I mean, he used to drop people by a punch, but this guy's gone to another level. Every time he's focused enough to just go for the fight, he ends it within the first minute. Like it's crazy, and I think a lot of buzz would go into something like a crossover fight with someone like Dillian Whyte, because you know Dillian Whyte is quite loud, quite brash in the boxing world, and Ngannou's just got the record in the UFC, and I think Dana White's maybe planting seeds. This is what I'm just thinking. There's planting seeds that this is a possible fight. Probably has spoken to Eddie Hearn already for this to actually gain momentum, because I can't see how this would have just come out of thin air.
It's going to be massively, again, the purse. Like, what is this fight worth? And I think every fight, crossover fight, should be looked at if there's going to be big enough publicity. It's just whether the two.
Yeah, but this is the first time that boxers, right, will want to fight something like Francis Ngannou, because Francis Ngannou can actually fight without needing to go to the ground. And boxers don't go to the ground, do they? So this would be a stand-up fight. He can actually go into a boxing ring and fight. He would do better than someone like a Conor McGregor.
Well,
if you watch his record.
He fought Joyce, didn't he?
The sparring. Yeah.
He sparred Joyce. But I think what's interesting as well is that, well, from what I've been, well, obviously, they're saying boxing, but what I've been hearing is that Dillian Whyte used to be MMA fighter. He's trained MMA. Obviously,
he had one fight at the age.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that potentially, because this Francis Ngannou, he's a stand-up guy in the cage anyway, potentially Dillian Whyte might go into the cage. He might not be a boxing fight. He might actually decide.
Yeah, he can go into the cage, but even if they go into the cage, he's not going to go. It's not going to go to the floor. This is just.
That's what I'm saying. So it's going to be a boxing fight anyway.
Yeah. Can I ask you what do you think is more popular from you? Because you guys are into both your sort of MMA and boxing to some extent. So, what would be more popular though, in terms of, would it be a UFC fighter having a fight with a boxer and it being classed as a boxing match, or do you think it would be more popular as a UFC fighter fighting a boxer inside the UFC?
I think as a prize fighting, right? So if I think him going into a boxing ring would be more popular, because
more of a main attraction.
Main attraction. I mean, boxing fans don't generally watch boxing all the time, but even the casual fans. But when a big fight happens and sort of momentum goes place, they can see something like boxing versus MMA, Dillian versus Francis Ngannou. I think that would cause a lot of buzz. While the UFC, they've got their UFC fans, and boxing casuals don't generally, because UFC is not just about one fight. It's about 6-7 fights after that. You know, they do a whole card. So then there will be MMA fights, and a lot of casuals don't like MMA, so they don't want to watch up to the co-main event before the main event. So, I mean, I think the buzz, it would be better for it to be made as a boxing match. I think there'll be.
I think what it would be better for money-wise for it to be made as boxing, especially as, you know, we've had this debate about what UFC pay. Boxing is more free. I think it'll be bigger, but I do think in terms of interest, we've seen a lot of, you know, the old adage is obviously, you know, MMA, mixed martial arts, you know, you're good at everything. Boxing, you're specialist at standing up. I think that everybody believes in general that 100% an MMA guy cannot go into the boxing ring and win. Whereas people, it's not 100%, but I think 80% people could say a boxing guy, if they can keep it stand up, can go into the MMA ring and win. If they can keep, like, so Mayweather wouldn't have a chance against McGregor in the MMA because he kicks.
Right.
But if it could be kept stand up.
Yeah, but it won't be like that. But
I'm saying for this fight.
Yeah, but if you put it in the cage, even with this fight though, even though like from what I'm thinking in terms of the way Ngannou fights will be stand up, if you put it in the cage, there's a possibility that Ngannou might just go, oh, technically, I'm just going to take Dillian Whyte to the ground. Because you can't make it.
He will have the right to. He will have the right
exactly.
To.
So
I think it'll be much more interesting as a. And I think when you enhance the chances of a knockout, like a stand up kind of fight, I think that kind of a fight is always. I'm more of a boxing fan than I am MMA, although I'm trying to get into sort of both realms. But I think there's nothing more attractive than two people just hammering each other out in terms of a sport perspective. So
remember, as an example, we've already seen it, right? James Toney versus Randy Couture. Randy Couture taking, as soon as the fight started, James Toney, okay, he was unhealthy. He didn't look fit as a fighter, but Randy Couture just took him to the ground and pounded him until he won. In this case, I don't think Francis would do that. And Dillian Whyte probably will work on his takedown a lot better than some like James Toney didn't even work on his takedown. So, but also there's this momentum with John Jones with Ngannou. So I don't know. I don't know whether this fight would happen in that respect. Because
for me, it's money. It's like the biggest indicator will be the money. Because if Dillian Whyte believes he has the following and popularity, and likewise with the UFC contestant, I think we were looking at just whether it's worthwhile monetarily, like just purely from a money perspective. If it makes too much sense and you got too much to gain, and it's that much, financially viable, I think it really boils down to popularity. So my perspective would be, where the criticism could be, is, are they popular enough? Is he popular enough in the UFC with that following? Is Whyte popular enough with the boxing fans? Like, will they be able to get enough people to commit and create enough hype for it to be as big, or it's never going to, it's not going to be as big as McGregor and
no, it won't. But I think it could be the start of something. And and this time I think it's an even playing field in terms of the striking. But
I agree. I think this will be a much more of a. But you believe that the UFC fighter could also have a chance of.
I think if it was in a boxing ring, Dillian Whyte would win, because obviously he'll start jabbing and Ngannou has shown to get tired. And Ngannou's a big puncher, so if he lands that one big punch, Dillian Whyte will be out. It's just as simple as that. It's
but then Whyte will probably be aware of those kind of tactics.
Exactly. So in the boxing ring, he's more likely to adjust to tire someone like Ngannou out.
I think it'll be more interesting than MMA ring. And from what I've seen of Ngannou, he's a guy that just comes forward and slugs. I think Dillian Whyte, and as well, Dillian Whyte could go.
He's got more power than Dillian Whyte, though.
Well, that's another thing as well. I'll ask you afterwards, but I do think that in an MMA ring it'll be more interesting. One thing is, that with boxing, obviously UFC fighters don't get paid more than boxing. So if the fight was in a boxing, it's gonna be risk reward, because that's the way in boxing. That's how it's looked at. But in Ngannou, he ain't got no risk, because what if he loses in the boxing ring? Who cares? Reward, he's probably going to make more money than he's ever made in UFC. Facts. Dillian Whyte is going to be a big fight for him. Obviously, there is a risk that if he loses in Ngannou, he's going to be very embarrassing for him. But I think he'd take it. But obviously, going back to what you just said, Rishi, there is a debate who hits harder, because you just said MMA, but I heard boxers hit harder.
No. So boxers in striking hit harder, obviously, because they use their hands all the time. Like, why wouldn't they hit harder? But this guy, but this guy, you got to remember, it's different from hitting. So boxers, whenever they fight somebody, they put their gloves on. They put 12 ounce, 10 ounce, 8 ounce, 16 ounce, whatever ounce of glove, they put gloves on in order to fight, whether they're sparring or whether they're fighting, for real or in a big fight. But MMA guys, they just put small gloves on. is closest to bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah,
So
it's less padding.
striking is very different in something like MMA to boxing. You can't do half the tactics. Like, for example, Mayweather's tactics would not work in MMA. You could not put one hand covering the chin
Like this,
and one
just
hand
walk
down.
forward.
Hey, you have to cover your face, because if you get landed a couple of shots, you're getting bruised, you're getting cut. Something's happening. Something is broken. That's how MMA works. So I think striking is very different in something like MMA. If it's in boxing, yeah, it's going to suit someone like Dillian Whyte. But he'll attack. But I think Ngannou could adapt to a bigger glove than something like Dillian Whyte adapting to a smaller glove. Though Dillian Whyte has fought in MMA, so he might have the chance to, he has an understanding of striking. Exactly. So, but generally, if you were just to take any boxer with a UFC or MMA fighter and they were to fight in an MMA ring, I think the boxer would struggle just because of the way they would throw their hands.
Would you guys want to see the fight?
Experience of throwing with a small glove. Sorry?
Would you guys want to see the fight? So if that fight was...
Yeah, of course. Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, it's the intrigue. That people always saying it. Boxers have had this argument with MMA fighters for a long time, who's the better fighter? And MMA always say, well, we've got all the skills and boxers have only hand skills. Well, boxers are saying
I think if you're looking at it as a fighter from a whole, I think MMA fighters do win that over, because obviously legs.
Yeah, of course, but boxers always claiming,
if you put them in a boxing ring, then of course it boils down to this pure skill of who's a better boxer.
Yeah,
because you can win boxing matches without having to necessarily knock out your opponent. Whereas I believe like that his game is built on a lot of knockout power, and he's ended quite a few opponents really early on. So.
But yeah,
I think it'll be a nice slugfest.
Yeah, the thing right now is, and I think it's well, just sticking to boxing and MMA. Why I personally feel why this fight is being talked about, because obviously, Whyte's got MMA background, but we're not going to see, we obviously won't not go off topic, talk about Joshua Fury, but we're not going to potentially, a big part of sports is the gate, like in football they're getting away with it, but boxing, like Fury, I think Fury Wilder, the second fight, done 16 million at the gate. It's big business. Now if you've not got fans there, that means that a lot of the fights are not really going to be financially viable. So the only way to make financially viable fights is potentially having fights that intrigue the audience, so that you can get people to tune in on pay-per-view, because that fight will be a pay-per-view fight. So that's why I think a lot you're going to see, like people, especially people like innovators like Eddie Hearn and Dana White, they're going to be coming up with these things because they know that we ain't got no crowd, so we need to get people to watch on TV. We need to intrigue them in, because nobody's going to.
Chidi, we are thinking quite short term here, because we don't know, like this time next year, whether everything potentially has gone back to being crowds and stuff. So maybe if they can hold off even for 12 months, this.
But that's the thing in boxing, and I think a lot of people have learned is that in boxing, boxing is a sport where if you don't take your chance, like Dillian Whyte had a chance to fight Anthony Joshua in April last year. He turned it down because he wanted more money. Joshua goes on to fight Andy Ruiz, loses all the belts. Dillian Whyte's still waiting for his title shot. Wilder has now lost the belt, so now he's got to wait for a rematch to happen, and he still might not get his title shot because Fury might go into unification with Joshua. So in boxing, you need to take your chances while they're there. So people are not going to think, oh well, in 12 months' time, 18 months' time, crowds will be back. Let's just wait. Especially in a sport like boxing, where you're not training and you need to keep active, and it's not like you're just football where you're getting paid every week regardless. You're self-employed. You only get paid when you fight. So if an opportunity is there, a crossover fight, it's intrigue, the money's on the table, they're going to take it. That's what it's going to come down to. No one's going to wait anymore. People are going to say, if they turn around and say, Joshua Fury, the money's in Saudi Arabia, they're going to take it. Like, people now are going to be like, no, whatever's there, we need to take, because we don't know what's going to happen, and you can't wait.
Yeah.
So do you anticipate this fight genuinely happening in like the next 12 months? Can you genuinely see that happening?
Well, with the way the situation is right now, this is probably the best chance to do it.
Yeah.
Everything is paused, sort of the world is stopped. So this is the chance to get something like this done. Because if this is successful, then there can be more of this. But it's just whether UFC, because obviously pay of fighters is very different in boxing and UFC. So it really depends on how Dana White can negotiate a contract with his fighters, and then how it can be negotiated with the boxer. So
put it this way, Francis Ngannou is going to be a case of what's the option. If Francis Ngannou, biggest fight will be John Jones. Even if and you can say I'm wrong, Rishi, but even if he fights John Jones, he ain't going to get paid more than 500 grand. Against Dillian Whyte, he'll get at least $1 million. Dillian Whyte has got Povetkin next, but if he doesn't get his world title shot against Fury or Wilder, who's he really going to fight? He's just going to go and fight hard guys. So he's going to be like, nah, I'll do this fight. So that's what it's going to come down to. If they don't get, if Ngannou doesn't get Jones and Dillian
he wants Stipe,
or whoever
he wants the champion.
Yeah, whoever the champion is. If he can't get that fight and Dillian Whyte was exactly. So if Ngannou can't get Stipe the champion and Dillian Whyte can't get the champion, they might just think, you know what, let's just meet up.
Yeah,
and that would be a good story. Both guys that couldn't get champions.
I think what's a little difficult though is like from looking at it long term, is it's always going to be, in my opinion, UFC bowing down to boxing to some extent in terms of if it was a thing that works and they wanted to do this in the future. You need always popular people from both sides to make it work, and then B, I can never see it. Like, just logically think about it. If they're two athletes and one's been training predominantly in boxing, one trains in MMA, which includes potentially a bit of striking and boxing, it makes much more sense to do it as a boxing match. But I can't see that being ever level playing field for UFC athletes, because clearly the favour is always going to be.
It depends. If it's a big fighter in boxing, then
like
I agree with you. I agree with you. But if it's a smaller, mid-ish boxer, then they would get their chance.
But like you say with UFC as well, when it comes to money, like boxing wins overall.
Well, it's the main fights that win over, not the mid-tier fights and lower.
But then the thing is, it's got to be popular. So if they're all mid-tier fights, is that even worth crossover?
It's not. But the MMA guys generate so much, even the mid-tier fighters, because generally the whole card is watched. That's the thing. MMA is building up big business. They're getting a lot of following now. It's growing every single day. They know it. And the difference is that if one organization puts the best versus the best, and in boxing you can kind of avoid the best for about 5 years or 6 years, then you kind of, as a fan, you're going to lean towards MMA slowly. If you can take I wouldn't call it brutality, but if you can take the way the punishment is given and the sometimes the blood that happens in there, and it can be brutal occasionally. If you can take that, then you're going to move straight from boxing to MMA.
It suggests to me like it'd be more these things would be more one-offs. I don't think you can see a series of these things really.
Well, we'll see, because Dana White's the man. Like you can't deny his record. He's got an island. Best business guy. Yeah, he's got a fight island now. So the guy's the best fighting.
Dana White and Eddie Hearn, both of them.
I think Dana White's bigger.
No. I know, but I'm talking about in terms of mentality. They're innovators.
Yeah.
They're innovators, and at the end of the day, if they can see a way to make money, they're going to do it regardless. And especially it's going to be more for UFC guys, because UFC fighters will be on it because they get paid less, and if they step into a boxing ring, they'll get paid more. So, and if the UFC allows them to get out of their contract for these one-off fights, and especially if Dana White's got control around it, it like Rishi said, it could be the start of something happening. Like,
it could.
Just whether the intrigue will last, because if the fights are not competitive, like if it's like a Mayweather-McGregor fight, which was entertaining, but at the end of the day, Mayweather carried McGregor from the start to the end. So,
shall we talk about? Sorry, you were going to say, Suraj?
No, I was just going to say, but then in that case, you can't lose in that case because they're just two big personalities, and they both, on their own, they could make fights. So combining the two just was like financially.
For money. These things always come down, especially in boxing. It's all about money.
Yeah.
Which it isn't in UFC, which is why.
Well, eventually we'll speak about that another time. We had a huge off the record. We had a huge debate about that. So yeah, let's talk about Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. I know the fight's already happened a while ago, but there was some stuff that came out in the media about a possibility, and then Mayweather said that he's never coming out of retirement. But let's just talk about their career. So, what do you guys think? I'll start with you, Chidi. So, do you think Mayweather has had a better career than Manny Pacquiao? Or who's had the better career?
But the issue with the question is that I feel you have to be specific when you talk about. I do, because when you talk about career, if you're talking about overall, then it's Mayweather. If you're talking about memorable fights, then it's probably Pacquiao.
But okay, explain when you say overall why Mayweather's had a better career than Manny Pacquiao.
Well, overall, in terms of, okay, let's look at.
Don't talk about money, because
I'm not. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Overall, money to me does come into it, but forget about money.
No, forget about money, because.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. So I'm saying, like, if you look at what Mayweather was doing, Mayweather was champion at 21. I think Pacquiao was still somewhere in the Philippines. I don't know what he was doing there. So that already lets you know that the levels.
What are you talking about? Okay, carry on. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but Pacquiao didn't become champion to 2001.
Yeah, okay,
Mayweather was
just keep going. Keep going. Yeah.
If you talk about, okay, yes, we're going to talk about weight class, because I know you're going to talk about that. In my opinion, Pacquiao is a bit tainted, because I don't know how someone's jumping up all them weight classes.
Oh, here we go.
But but Mayweather's jumped up weight classes. If you talk about achievements, belts-wise, Mayweather's won, become undisputed. Mayweather's won, become multiple champion. If you're talking about in the ring, like, let's talk about fighting. Yes, Pacquiao's fights, we all know, were more exciting. But how many times? Legitimately on the record, has Mayweather ever been knocked down? I've seen Pacquiao sleeping. I've seen Pacquiao on the floor, night snoozing. I ain't never seen Mayweather even hurt. Maybe against Mosley when his legs buckled. I've seen Pacquiao like, oh.
Okay.
Like he ain't getting any
and still, that doesn't make sense. But okay.
No, but I'm saying, like, if you're talking about like a fight, like in their career, someone went in, like, it's just like if you're talking about
career, career.
I'm talking about in their career. I ain't never seen Mayweather hurt. Pacquiao's been sleeping. I've seen him asleep. That has to count. You know what I mean? Like, that has to count for something. Like,
I think it's what Chidi's saying is kind of valid, because you've asked the question, who's had the better career. So you're kind of leaving it subjectively to us to determine what you mean by that, in the sense that what perspective do you want to take it? So I kind of did like Chidi. I kind of broke it down by the weight classes, and I at the end of the day sort of went through each weight class and tried to see who I would have over the other. And I kind of, looking at it, I almost had it sort of a little bit like 4-2-ish towards Mayweather, but I feel like it could probably go a bit further with Mayweather. So it was, I don't have the most extensive knowledge in terms of following the two boxers' careers, but obviously I know from a outside perspective, I've followed them during the sort of bigger fights. I know obviously Mayweather goes down as one of the greatest in terms of just the sheer record of the fighters. He has made his way up through the weights, just like Pacquiao. I think at most of the weights I was looking at, so 130, 135, 40, 47s, I had Pacquiao winning, I think, the 140 or the 147. But other than that, I had pretty much Mayweather in terms of what they've achieved. I think with Chidi as well, he was saying, like, if you look at who they fought, like, there's individuals like Pac-Man wins. So, like, Pac-Man wins in the sense that when he beat, like, Hatton and stuff like that, undefeated at the time. But I think overall, if you're looking at the career and who had to defend against who, even like, I was just making some notes, and I think even at 130, I had like Mayweather, because the people he beat were on winning streaks and stuff like that to win his two-time against two-time champions. So in 130 I had Mayweather, and then I did 135. When I broke it down the way I was looking at it, I had Mayweather as well at 135, having the better achievements overall.
Yeah, but you're looking at it from like I don't understand this whole individual thing. Okay, if you took it from a career perspective, yeah, when you talk about wait, right? You build up through the weights. Yeah, but let's talk about it, right? When he was 21 years old and he won his title, you say, who was his dad?
Who's dad?
And who's his uncle?
Yeah, but
no,
that's what I'm trying.
no. I want answer the question.
Mayweather, his dad was Floyd Mayweather Senior, and his uncle was Roger.
And
Mayweather.
who were they? Who were they? Explain.
Roger Mayweather was, I believe, 2-time world champion, and Floyd.
And do you think
So
that would help? Wait.
Was a
Do you
boxer.
think? Wait 1 second before. Do you think that would help you get a world title shot if you were winning fights? Do you think that it's possible to skip a lot of what you'd have to go through initially in order to get a world title?
Yeah, but I've already said this, that if you're talking about what in terms of like fighting.
No, but not even.
I think
fighting.
Pacquiao is better, but I'm saying that if you're talking about career, like everything,
exactly. So okay, let me
then I
finish.
think
But let me finish though. So then, if we're talking about, so I'm just going against your point. So you said 21, right? Now Manny Pacquiao, where he start from? He started from
some bush in Philippines.
Yeah, from nothing. Tell me a boxer from your top of your head that has gone from the Philippines all the way to the top. Like nowhere, and he started off at like what he was at 109 pounds or something like that. They said that he had to basically eat to get up to there. He was weighing really naturally at 98 pounds. Then he went up one division.
But then I could argue that, but then you said I could argue
that, but that's 8 divisions.
That Mayweather. How many boxers do you know? A lot of boxers that parents were successful and had money still had the hunger and ability to overtake them. Because Pacquiao's story, everybody's got that kind of story.
Oh, come on, dude.
What do you mean? How many boxers do you know?
I do not care. If
Rishi,
you got a guy...
in terms of criteria, though, like you're basically penalising Mayweather for having support, and then
but you can't. But I'm giving out the hardship that he had to get to, and the fact that he went from a 109. So we're not talking about a win between Mayweather and Pacquiao, because we know that if they fought each other, Mayweather likely to win. Right? We know that. Wait, before we finish. We know that Mayweather's likely to win if Mayweather fought Pacquiao. But we're saying that...
We don't know it's likely he did win.
From an overall career perspective, right? He's come from a lower weight division and has gone through more weight divisions than Mayweather to the same weight division as Floyd Mayweather. And they fought and Manny lost. But it's like me saying, well, Canelo, he jumps up weight divisions and he goes all the way up to the heavyweight division. And David Haye, or let's talk about Kovalev, goes up 3 weight divisions to the heavyweight, and then Kovalev beats Canelo. So does that make Kovalev better than Canelo? If I know it's a bad thing because they've already fought and Canelo's won, but I'm just saying if Kovalev beat Canelo in the heavyweight division, I'm just making Andre Ward. So if Andre Ward went up his weight divisions, went to the heavyweight division, and then beat Canelo, does that make does that make Ward's career better than Canelo?
No, but what I'm saying,
why are both parties moving up the weights? Explain that to me then.
They're clearing out divisions. They essentially destroyed their division. They were the best in their division.
No, basically, it's pure. Basically, what it is, Suraj, is that when you are forget about. I'll say something because I don't want to taint Manny Pacquiao, but ideally, it's when you are, when you were 18, naturally your body gets bigger. Yeah. So if you start at heavyweight or if you start at super middleweight, 168, your body is going to get bigger, but it might not get that much bigger. People stay in the same weight classes. Mayweather and Pacquiao were fighters that started at low weight classes, but naturally your body's going to get bigger, so you're going to move up.
Manny Pacquiao was in a very low weight class. He was walking and his body, low weight.
His body got bigger. If you see Manny Pacquiao,
but that's only after he's won 30 pounds. It's like you're misleading the people right now in the podcast by saying that Manny Pacquiao naturally walked at a much lower weight class than Mayweather. You need to admit
what I'm trying to say is that he was at a lower weight class, and I don't want to start tainting, and I won't even talk about certain things.
Yeah, because there's no proof to what you're saying.
No, but when you are at a lower weight class, and you come from the Philippines, then suddenly you come to America and you've got good. Suddenly now you've got a nutritionist. Suddenly you've got strength and conditioning coach. Yeah, they teach you how to maintain that weight, and then he moved up.
Exactly. So you're making my point that he's done so hardship to get to the point, but you're putting it on the 50-0. I'm not saying that as a fighter, if they fought each other, that Mayweather would beat Pacquiao. But I'm saying as an overall career, who Pacquiao's fought, yeah, the amount of weight class he's jumped, and the weight divisions that he's, the weight divisions that he's fought in. How can you not say Manny Pacquiao's career, the division?
No, but I just said that.
All the big names came at weight anyway, right?
Huh?
So when he was fighting at these lower weights anyway, it's not like they were fighting anyone that was noteworthy, because the people as you go up.
No, there were, mate. There were. He was. Dude, he was clearing his division.
He cleared out all the Mexicans. I said that. I said that Pacquiao. When you look at that, I'm talking. I can't say.
I'm talking about career.
I'm talking about. If you're talking about fight career. I said, if you look at fight career and Pacquiao's accomplished, yes, he is better. But ultimately, that means Pacquiao is the best ever boxer. He's had the best career ever then. If you say Pacquiao's had the best career out of every fighter, Muhammad Ali, Joe Louis.
No, it can't be better than Muhammad Ali because of what he went through.
Muhammad Ali went one, but how can you?
No, but what he went through. We know that the hardship.
What he's trying to say is you're giving a lot of weight to the other. So you're giving a lot of weight into the argument based on his pre-130
Yeah, because what about if Sunday Mayweather?
When a lot of the stuff that counted is certainly at the highest level, we're talking about 130 plus, because that's where all the big fights are. That's where all the
okay, 130 plus. Manny Pacquiao fought the better opposition at 130 plus.
Yeah, but he fought the problem with that.
Morales, Marquez.
My argument is with that.
Not cheating and picking fights either.
The guys, no. We'll talk about, because there's two Mayweather careers. Yeah, the Mayweather career when
he lost against Castillo. Yeah.
Well, you could say he lost, but
I mean, it was proven that punch stats, everything showed that he lost.
It's not.
But, he won.
Before Mayweather fought De La Hoya, after Mayweather fought De La Hoya, everybody knows he picked his fight, and eventually Pacquiao went the same way. Before that, the guys that Mayweather fought, like the Corrales, all these guys were undefeated, but because they never went on to achieve anything after that, it kind of looks suspect. Whereas when Pacquiao fought Marquez, the Morales, Pereira, Morales. Obviously, these guys are. I think they are. Well, Morales, I think, is in the Hall of Fame. Marquez is definitely in the Hall of Fame. He's a Hall of Fame. So obviously, it does. It looks a lot better. And Mayweather never fought these guys. So I said for notable fights, and especially as the fights went on, you have to give it to Pacquiao. Like if I looked at a career in the fight sense and said, okay, whose career would I rather have here? In terms of memorable fights and be remembered in that way, then I would say Pacquiao.
And okay, but there's another.
If I look at overall,
Manny Pacquiao's career is not over, and you guys, he just beat
I'm not saying that though. But I'm saying Pacquiao's career in the fight sense is better. But if I look at overall, and I'm looking at, obviously you say money's not a factor, but undefeated,
don't put money, man.
Not in the ring, never been hurt, schooled, never losing rounds. Has fought top competition, and when he fought these top competitions, he didn't need no 4 or 5 times to do it.
He picked his main competition.
Why did Pacquiao fight?
Rishi,
Why did Pacquiao fight Morales again? Why did Pacquiao fight Morales? Why did Pacquiao fight Morales? How many times? Why did he fight him the second time? Why?
Because he lost the first time and he wanted to prove a point.
And Floyd don't lose the first time.
Yeah,
so
but
why are you going to fight?
Hold up. He lost the first time against Castillo and he got a decision. He would have got one. He would have got one.
No,
did he win? Did he win or not?
Did he win? Be truthful to yourself, though.
Did he win?
See, exactly. You're not being truthful.
Did he win, though? Did he win?
Carry on.
Yeah, but
you shouldn't base it on losses. Even in the UFC, they don't base it on the amount of times they lost.
I'm saying,
it's like undefeated. He's better than Mayweather. He's better than Tyson. He's better than Muhammad Ali.
Even if he lost in your mind, what happened 8 months later?
What do you mean?
Schooled him.
Even if he lost in your mind, what happened 8 months later?
Exactly. And but that's you made my point, because he lost against Morales and then he destroyed him in the other 2 fights.
Yeah, but
he wasn't even in the same league.
Yeah, and I'm trying to say that Mayweather never lost.
But Manny Pacquiao was just coming up to boxing like properly, and he's fighting these guys who are established boxers like Morales, and he lost to them first time, and he had to learn. You got to remember, Mayweather had everything he needed. Manny Pacquiao did not, and Manny Pacquiao's jumped 8 weight divisions.
Yeah, and Mayweather had everything he needed,
8
and he never
to 5. That's
and
huge.
he never came close to losing.
Rishi,
Pacquiao
did he
lost to
ever?
Tim Bradley.
No. That's the fair point. Did he ever struggle making the weight though? So when he moved up to the next weight and he fought whoever he picked or whoever he fought, did he ever have any problems making weight?
No, he basically put on muscle and he built up. Like and he never naturally walked at that weight. He just kept building up.
But what I'm saying is, every time he moved up a weight, did he not go on and do pretty well? As in, like he did it.
Yeah, he did. So that you're making my point.
He carried his weight fine, and he did that through 130, 35, 47, 40, 47.
Dude, he's 5'4". So I just want to point this out, right? If you're a guy who walks at 98 pounds originally, if say you looked at two people in your life,
he's very quick though.
No, but just wait.
Even moving up, he was very quick. He retained his speed.
But that's a good thing. That you're
that's what I'm saying that in favor of Mayweather. I'm saying that in favor of Mayweather.
But how is that in favor of Mayweather? My point is,
as in it's seamless for him. So
what's a bigger achievement? What's a bigger achievement? A guy that came from 98 pounds to be able to win a title at 154, right? Or a guy that came up at 130 pounds to win a title at 154
and was never beaten.
But
50 scalps on the way.
Hold up, Suraj
got wobbled once in his whole career and never hit the canvas. Like that's fair. That's fair in his favor. I get what you're saying. Like he moved up more weight divisions. That he was naturally smaller, and that we should give him a lot more credit because he's naturally.
You have to. You can't not.
Why? Because that doesn't work. That doesn't work for other people. Then that means you can't give any.
When he said it versus Muhammad Ali, then suddenly you've changed.
Look at Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah, he went for 147. He fought Marvin Hagler at 160. Yeah. That's 3 weight classes. Obviously, when you're naturally at big, you rarely find anybody that's jumped from 147 to go all the way to 168.
How is that not a plus for Manny Pacquiao?
So why
is a plus? But we're not giving it more weight.
Yeah.
What Mayweather's
done. Sugar Ray Leonard went from 147, 154 to 160.
Take the undefeated away for Mayweather for a second. Stop looking at the guy has never lost, right? Manny Pacquiao's meant to lose. He is meant to lose. If a guy comes out, there's no fighter in the entire boxing, UFC, MMA that has gone. If I talked about MMA and I said one guy from the 125-pound division suddenly goes up and fights a guy in welterweight and beats him, that is outrageous. It's like not there. The height differences are huge, like 3-4 inches different. Manny Pacquiao is more on an actual weight, not on the internet, is about 5'5". Yeah, and Mayweather's actually 5'8" to 5'9". You're penalizing a guy.
But what I'm trying to explain to you, Rishi, is that I get your argument. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is like Suraj is saying, you're putting too much emphasis on it. First of all,
it's the biggest emphasis.
No, but because
that's your only point.
Because he could only beat him by 4 rounds.
It's actually better.
And you're actually penalizing Mayweather.
Okay, but he could only beat him.
You're asking us to respect Pacquiao because he started off it. Why should we penalize Mayweather so much on his body type because he retains weight well?
You find it more rarer, yeah, that people that actually start at heavier weight classes, it's actually rarer for them to move up. How many fighters do you know that started at 154 and have gone to 175? How many do you know?
I don't know on the top of my head. Canelo.
Exactly. You don't really know. Like
Canelo's the man, right? Canelo's the man. He's
Canelo. Probably only Canelo's done that. Only Canelo.
Roy Jones Jr.
Exactly. So
Roy Jones Jr. Okay.
Exactly.
Roy Jones
so who's
Jr.
better, Roy Jones Jr. or Pacquiao?
Huh?
Whose achievement was better? That Roy Jones Jr. that went all the way to heavyweight or Pacquiao?
Pacquiao. You're looking at me funny, but I'm looking at fights. If I can pull like 20 fights of Manny Pacquiao
Jones
that you
went to heavyweight.
Huh?
Roy Jones Jr. went to heavyweight.
But he never hardly won at heavyweight.
So it doesn't matter. He went from 160 to heavyweight.
Manny Pacquiao stayed at 147, bro. He's staying at that weight. He walks around at 140 and he's fighting guys at 147. So he's fighting guys that are bigger, naturally bigger than him. Mayweather walks around at 154 and has to drop weight to 147. Manny Pacquiao walks at 140 and has to put on weight. There's a difference. You're not thinking the smaller man is just doing more to get in there. And you're talking about the fight. Let's talk about the fight. Did Mayweather smash Manny Pacquiao, honestly, in your opinion? No. So he barely beat him.
But that's
He
not his
barely
style
beat
anyway.
him.
Really?
Oh, come on, man, dude. Be honest with yourself. Just be honest with yourself. If you even look at the punch,
it was a comfortable victory.
it was a bullshit, bogus judges. It was a
Rishi,
lot closer than even you said it. Don't even go there.
Rishi,
Yeah,
Mayweather had a
116,
game
112.
plan. He executed it. Manny Pacquiao wasn't able to adapt, and he couldn't land anything significant. Like even then,
I'll let you have. No, wait. Let Chidi have the last word, and then I'll let you both have the last word. One word, gone.
Like I said, if you take Mayweather's career as a whole,
yeah,
everything included, then it has to be Floyd. If you take fights, like forget getting banged up, forget money, forget all of that, then yeah, Pacquiao, it has to be Pacquiao. But a boxing career, if boxing was just about fights, then every fight would happen. We would have seen Wilder Joshua 5 times by now. But boxing doesn't work like that. And I will give you that we will see how things are going to turn out. If Pacquiao retires today, his post-career, that will take Mayweather a bit, because Mayweather could have fought on. Obviously, Pacquiao has...
What about if Pacquiao beats Spence?
If Pacquiao... Well, we don't know if Spence is... If Earl Spence fights Danny Garcia, beats Danny Garcia, and looks the same as he was before, and I will tell you right now, yeah, and he looks the same as he was before, and Pacquiao fights Earl Spence and beats him, Pacquiao's better than Mayweather.
So you're saying no, wait. I don't want to hear none of this. I don't want to hear none of this. If Spence beats Garcia, that means he's back.
Yeah, that means he's back. Yeah,
and you're telling me if Mayweather, if Manny Pacquiao beats one of the top welterweights, we're talking. Give me names.
Yeah.
Errol Spence. Who else?
Crawford.
And
I don't think there's anyone in the welterweight. I think those are the top guys. I don't rate Porters and Thurmans. I think they're like...
Come on, man. You can't rate Thurman. You were rating him before. You can't now.
No, but Thurman came off a 2-year layoff.
Yeah, I know, but he still beat... Come on.
Yeah, he still beat him, but I'm saying somebody that came off a 2-year layoff...
It was an upset. Was it or not an upset?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, no, because who was the favourite?
How was it upset? It wasn't an upset.
Thurman was favourite.
Yeah, but it was like 50-50. Thurman was slight favourite.
He was a major favourite, and then people.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, he was 1.5 about 2 or 3 or 4 weeks before the fight, and then people were dumping money on. Like, people were dumping money on Pacquiao, and the odds went to 50-50.
Thurman was like 5-6. That's just like.
No, but that's at the end when people realize the odds. That's how Thurman.
I'm not going to take anything away, because I don't want to take nothing away from Pacquiao. Because that was still a great victory. But ultimately, Thurman was coming off 2-year layoff. He looked dog poo in his fight against Josecito.
Look.
He nearly got KO'd. And Pacquiao done...
You said you didn't want to poo-poo his thing, and you just did it. Look.
Yeah, well, I've got to say...
Manny Pacquiao beat Thurman, and you're telling me... No, wait, I just want to hear the last word.
Undefeated Terence Crawford or undefeated...
Wait, last word. No, wait, last word. You said, I just want to hear it, and then we're done. I'm gonna end the podcast.
I said, if Manny Pacquiao beats an undefeated Terence Crawford and an undefeated Earl Spence pre-motorcycle crash, because I don't know what...
That's never going to happen. So if he beats Errol Spence, if Errol Spence beats Garcia, let's put it that way.
If Errol Spence beats Garcia, because we know he was back, I'll give him that. Then Pacquiao has put the stamp that his fight career is better than Mayweather's.
There you go. You heard it in this podcast. I just heard this.
Let's see if that happens, yeah.
I just wanted to get that out there. That's great. I'm going to remind you this. I swear if that happens, boy, this is going to be a great one. A great episode.
I don't think he ain't fighting Crawford because he's shook and he had his chance to fight him.
Look, we'll see. But I mean, all I can say is if he suddenly beats, like, let's just say he beats another 2 top welterweights in their prime.
But he's doing something that I have to say that, because at the end of the day, like, the reason why I say Mayweather had a better career is because Mayweather done something in his career that fighters haven't done. If Pacquiao comes at his age, starts beating these, who do you know has done that?
No one knows.
No one. Look at Muhammad Ali. Look how he ended his career. He was getting knocked out by random guys, Mike Tyson, all these, even Lennox Lewis. He was on top. after that Klitschko little 6th round, he was tired. He was like, "No, I'm not going to rematch Klitschko." How many people do you know? Nobody's done that ever in boxing. So obviously, if Pacquiao does it, what do you want me to say? It's unheard of. It's literally unheard of. So that has to put him up there as the greatest.
Yeah. Suraj, do you want to say anything else, or you're done?
Pretty much that. I've sent you boys a source on our thread.
All right. Yeah. All right. Cool. Hi guys, thanks for tuning into our video. If you're watching this on YouTube, then please click the like button. And if you want to watch more video content like this, you can click the subscribe button. And don't forget to click the notification bell, which will basically give you all the latest videos when they're uploaded. If you want to listen to the full episode and you don't want to see our ugly faces, you can listen to the full episode on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. Thanks.